don't have to, but you want to explain real quick what you were doing, what you were checking for? So I went ahead and threw the boxes back on. They're not screwed down or anything. I want to leave that accessible because the inspector's going to have to see it. So everything is now in conduit. I understand that back panel, it's not painted yet. That's not a big deal. We can get to that whenever. And yeah, I just gotta take that zip tie off in a few hours after that epoxy is cured, and we're done back here. So the rest of the work is inside. That upper connection, I'm gonna leave that for the utilities crew. That's pretty sure that's their job. Considering they made that cut, I'm assuming they plan on reconnecting, so I'm gonna leave it just like that. And yeah, time to hop inside. We just got to finish up with the panel, and this is ready to go. I've already called in inspection because the hard work's done. The inside work with the panel is extremely predictable. I have no problems with that. This service work, not really something I know that well. I'm not used to dealing with these heavy wires, and yeah, it took me longer than it'd take probably a regular electrician. That makes perfect sense. And you know, when you hire an electrician, when you hire a professional who does a certain job day in, day out, you know, you get a more efficient service. That's just the nature of it. You know, you won't call an electrician to frame your house. You'd probably call me. But for a service, you'd want to call an electrician. I don't mind doing it for myself, but I'm not doing it professionally for anyone else. And of course, you know, I've got, you know, electricians I could talk to and know what I'm doing and know that what I'm doing is up to code. And I have an inspection coming by, and if something is out of place, if something's wrong, I'll know about it. And really, that's the benefit of getting an inspector. I never really understood it, you know, where some trades or some homeowners find it such a hassle. I know the permitting process can be a huge hassle. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the inspectors coming by to look at your work, they're kind of that last barrier before, you know, everything gets hooked up. Their job is to ensure that everything's done adequately, it's done safely, and that, you know, you're not doomed for imminent failure, or in this case, you know, potential fires. So it's a huge service that these inspectors offer, and I have respect for them. Most of the inspectors I've worked with over the years, they've all been good. I think only one incident I had an inspector I didn't like at first. He was a young guy. I'm pretty sure I was one of his first jobs, and he came by thinking he was a cowboy, and he was trying to give me a hard time. But you know, respect is very reciprocal in the trades, and you know, generally speaking, it doesn't matter who you are. You know, we're very mutual when it comes to respect. So he wasn't like that for very long anyway. I'm not the one who put him in his place. I don't know who did, but somebody must have. He was I think he must have been in his early 20s at the time, and you know, by the time I left, I had dealt with him for about 3 years, and he was actually pretty good. So I got good things to say about him now. So aside from that, always good experiences, and yeah, I hope that continues. So let's hop into the basement. Alrighty. So we've now got the mains hooked up. All the big lines are done. The next thing to focus on, so we're already bonded to the water pipes as soon as I hook this back up. It's a bit of a stretch, so I pulled it out of here. I'll have to move that, although I'm not even sure if we're using that anymore. Might be. Anyway, this is a bit of a stretch, so I moved it back a run, and if I put it through there, it'll just barely make it. So this will hook up the water pipes. And after that, I need a second ground rod. There has to be 2 ground rods for the system for them to pass it. And that's one of the main things they're going to be looking for is making sure there's adequate grounding. And, you know, apart from the secure hookups and making sure everything's good and tight, that sort of thing. And then, you know, it's always good to have at least one circuit on so they can sort of test, you know, that everything's functioning a little easier. So let's focus on the grounding right now. We're going to get this hooked up and then we're going to find a spot for our second ground rod. Alright, so this is a decent spot. It's far away from the other ground rod. It's kind of what they want. They want a minimum of 6 to 8 feet apart, but if you get further, it's not a bad thing. So we're going to go to the opposite side of the house here. We've got a water line right here. So I'm going to put my ground rod in this corner, and then I'm going to put it into the wall, and I'm going to attach to this water line. Now, unfortunately, yet another thing I don't have is all the fittings I need. So I don't have the fitting to attach the ground rod to that water line, so I'll have to pick one of those up. But that's not a big deal. That's literally the only thing left that I don't have. So I'm not going to complain too much about that. I gotta take that out. Well, that would do it. I definitely hit something hard. I'll have to straighten that out. To his new location. Well, that'll drive in. Yeah, this is the other corner I didn't mind. Gotta drill through some brick, that's annoying, but we can live with that. There is definitely something going here that'll hide this right up. A little crooked, but I can bang that straight once it's down. Oh, yeah. All right, let's try this again. I think there's something close to the foundation I'm hitting. So let's straighten it out again. I'm going to stay a little bit back. Once again, this is garden space. Perfect. Oh, that's better. All right, drive that to the ground and we're good. Just in time, we got a storm coming. I hear thunder. So, give you this. I didn't do it on the other side. I got my reasons. Mostly because I plan on actually moving it, but we could just bury this against the wall. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're just gonna smash this right into the ground. We can do whatever. All right, so I got the ground rod in. I got the little ground line strung back. I just got to hook it up to the water line. Now I did take a break there. I had something else I had to take care of, and then I had to run out and grab the connector so I could connect the ground line to the water pipe. So I got that now. I'm going to get this hooked up, and then I'm going to hook up just a couple circuits, and we're ready to go for inspection. All right, so I finished up late last night, of course, and I just got back from work today. I did call in the inspection yesterday, and the inspector was by first thing this morning, and we got ourselves a green sticker. So I've called in to the utility company, and they will be hooking this up, but unfortunately I gotta wait a whole 5 days for that to happen. Kind of typical of utility companies. They're the hardest to get in gear. And they're massively understaffed right now. I do know that is a factor. I think that's a bit of a bureaucratic factor. I know there's labor shortages in a lot of companies and a lot of industries, but I think on their end it's a little bit to do with penny pinching and the fact that they actually contract out a lot of their work now rather than doing it in-house. So it leaves them really subject to other companies, but that also depends on the utility company. At any rate, it is getting hooked up, it is done, and we have officially upgraded the house to 200 amp service, and that feels good. So, thanks for joining me along the ride. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always, we'll see you in the next one. Bye. don't have to, but you want to explain real quick what you were doing, what you were checking for?
I was testing voltage, making sure you had the proper voltage, testing for any load on the meter, see if the breaker was off, and doing a fault test also on the load side, make sure everything's safe on that.
All right, so it's a brand new day. We're off to a fresh start over at the property, and so am I. As you can see, I got a little bit of a cut here. So my wife finally pinned me down and shaved off all my neglect. So it looks like we're off to a fresh start in more than one way. So let's see how this goes. So as you saw, we got the meter hooked up. It's there in all its glory, and he did some voltage testing, and that basically tests everything up to the breaker right here. So if this wasn't here, he would have been testing it up to the panel box inside. So now we got a green sticker. This was all inspected and it all checks out, but we're going to go ahead and do the first test. So once I flip this on, it should stay on, not kick out, and it stayed on. So let's head downstairs, see what we got. All right, so heading downstairs. So I don't think I hooked up the basement lights yet. Actually, I know I didn't. I only hooked up a few things up top. So you always want to start with everything in the off position. Obviously, I got to finish pinning that down. So we're going to start by throwing this breaker on, and we're good. And now I'm going to start with the water pump. We should hear that kick on right away. Oh, beautiful. We got a functional toilet again. So I'm going to throw these two on, and they both stayed on. So let's head upstairs. So we're back up top. Let's see if our lights are back on. That would be just amazing. And oh, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Oh, I could just turn everything on just to burn electricity. It feels so good to have that back. Because I'll tell you, one of the problems, I've got most of my equipment moved here at this point. So when I got to do shop work or anything like that, I'm now coming here to do it. And without power, I've really been struggling the last few days because I have to buckle down on my regular job as well. I can't just neglect it for this project. I gotta balance everything as best as possible. So I'm back up and running in every way, and we don't have to get another shut off. So it feels great that this part of the process is now done. Because, you know, one way or another, I knew there was going to be a disruption, you know, a disruption of power. You have to get everything shut off, and if you schedule it properly, you can have it done in a day, but obviously stuff like this does happen. And we got over it, and it is done safely. It was fully inspected, every inch of it. The service up to the panel, and the inspector would have seen what was done with the rest of the wiring while he was here, just because it was hooked up to the panel. So we're good to go.